So over many videos and multiple times, whether it be me ranting to you like I'm doing right now, or answering questions that you guys have emailed me or left in the comment section below, which again, I love when you guys do that. I've mentioned the idea that you as a leader, raid leader, guild leader, officer, it doesn't matter. Somewhere somebody needs to set a list of expectations that the guild, the raid can follow if they intend to either continue getting a raid spot, or if they're new to the guild or coming back for, let's say, BFA or something, that they can follow in order to obtain that said spot in the raid. Now, the last video that I did, I made mention of a very small set of universal qualities and expectations that you should have if you intend to raid. And I don't care if you're doing mythic difficulty, 3-4 days a week, or you're maybe doing normal if your guild can piece together a run and your leadership will attempt to do it 1 or 2 days a week. Regardless of your seriousness when it comes to raiding and the content that you're doing, there are a few very quick, easy, universal expectations that every raider should be accomplishing. The first one here is performance. The idea that you as a player need to be competitive on par with your peers. That means that if you're playing a class that can pull out 2 million DPS based on your item level, I'm just throwing numbers out here, and the other, let's say, mages in your raid are pulling out, somewhere between 1.8 to 2.2 million DPS, and you're pulling, same item level or pretty damn close to it, like 500-600k, you're doing something wrong. That expectation is not being met. If your parses are low, and I promise you guys we're going to get into logs and whatnot, spoiler alert, in a later series, but the idea that if you're parsing super low consistently and you're not fixing it, your performance is low, that expectation isn't being met. If you aren't handling mechanics properly, you're consistently dying, you're consistently failing to, whatever mechanic is out there for the boss, you're standing in fire, you're getting hit by conal attacks or, attacks that come in and, move around, whatever the case might be. If you are getting hit and failing at mechanics, the expectation of performance isn't being met. If you aren't using consumables, and even me, I had to bust a couple of my guild members for this, where I said, we've been doing heroic Argus, and you are sitting here bitching about us not having enough players to do mythic Argus because of that, I've mentioned it several times, that roster boss. You can't even use a potion. Why are you not pre-potting? If you're not using consumables, the expectation of performance is not being met. And that truthfully might have something to do with your low parses, your low DPS, and you not being able to keep up with those that are playing the same class and very similar gear to what you have on hand. So performance, that's an expectation. You should be able to put out the same DPS as everybody, the same healing as everybody, or take the minimal amount of damage as everybody. Not standing crap. Do what you're supposed to do as far as use consumables, get the job done. The second one here, and we've already kind of touched on it, is the idea of attendance. That simply put, regardless of what you're doing, and I don't care if, like I said, you're doing hardcore, I'm raiding 4 or 5 days a week, good God, help you. I've been there, I've done it, and I don't want to do it again, where I've raided 5 days a week. But you got to show up. If you are running normal and, your guild tries to piece together a run every week, you got to show up. I've mentioned it several times. You guys have mentioned it. I've read it in forums. I've watched other YouTubers and content creators talk about how difficult it is to recruit, how difficult it is to keep a roster. And there are many factors on it. We're not going to touch on them here, but the idea is simple. If you want to raid, show up. And this is something that I've mentioned to you guys that is extremely frustrating. The idea of, and I've had a couple of guys that have done this, where we're at, let's say, 17 players, 18 players. And I'll get a message or in Discord, somebody will pull me aside afterwards and they'll go, look, we're at 18. I think I'm going to stop raiding. I go, well, is everything okay? Is there an issue? Is there a problem? Oh yeah, everything's good. I just, we've done heroic for a bit. We got it on farm. I'm going to come back when we get it, when we start doing mythic content. And I've told this to you guys before, in one of my videos, that, well, now you're part of the problem. Now we have 16 players. And it's this opening of the floodgates, where one person leaves and then another person goes, well, shit, now we're down to 16. I think I'll take a break. And now we're down to 15. Well, shit, now we're losing 2 people. I'm bailing. Now we're down 3 people. And it keeps, this chain reaction keeps going. And the roster boss is hard. And I've mentioned to some of my raiders, where I've said as an expectation, especially if you are in a tank or healer role, which is, that prime real estate that, there's only so many healers you need in a raid. There's only so many tanks. We can always fill it with DPS. That you got to be on it regardless of what we're doing. If we're doing, Mythic Plus, you got to show up for that. If we're doing, an alt run, you got to show up for that. If we're doing an achievement run, which is what we've been doing the past few weeks, kind of just playing around, getting some of the raider achievements, the mounts from the different raids, you got to show up, and that's what it costs when you want to raid, is you show up. Now, yes, I've mentioned to you guys that life should come first, that I will never advocate putting aside life, whether it's, family, friends, other things to play the game, but you do need to make a choice, right? That, whether it's you go to your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend and go, look, I play this game, I enjoy it, for the, these 2 days a week, for these 2 or 3 hours, I'm going to play this game. Everything else is time with you or time with the kids or, whatever. You got to work that out. You got to figure that out. But if you intend to raid, you got to raid. You got to show up. The third one here is attitude. And like I said, regardless of what you're doing, you can't be a dick about it. Now, I will say this. As a general rule, the harder the content that you're doing, the more divas you will see. And maybe I'm wrong on that, but from personal experience, there are those that are doing harder content that will expect more. They will want more. They will take less shit, etc. But the simple fact is that if you intend to raid, don't be a dick. Because there are 19 other people that are in the same boat as you, that want the same loot as you, that want to kill the boss as, the same as you, that want those rewards, that want this and that and the other. And they got to put up with you for 2, 3, 4 days a week, every week, for until they, leave or the guild collapses. So don't be a jerk, You got to remember, and I mentioned this when we talked about Mythic Plus and, or the, not Mythic Plus, the idea of, BFA and loot from raids. I don't know where I got Mythic Plus from. The idea that there is a group improvement mentality for guilds rather than a individualistic, greedy mentality. That if you have that greed, give me that because it's mine and I deserve it, and not, hey, the raid group as a whole has benefit from this guy getting that sweet trinket that really would have benefited me, but it also benefits him. Then you have the wrong attitude about it. The idea that you are in a group that will only get stronger when you help that group. When you go, hey man, I think your rotation is off a little bit. Hey man, maybe you could swap this piece in for that, or hey, I think the talents have changed, whatever the case might be. There's the idea that you are in a group now. And if you are the one that is detrimental and holding them back, whether it be, you not being willing to do a specific mechanic, not being able to, and I can't think of one off the top of my head. You can't handle a certain mechanic, and so you don't want to do it. If you are just a pain to raid with, if you are someone that, when you open your mouth, people cringe because they really don't like to raid with you. If you're one that just simply is going to bitch and moan about everything else, I didn't get that piece of loot. This guy sucks. And you're not stepping up and going, hey, I'm glad everybody got, this kill and we got some loot into the raid so that next week we can kill it faster and more successfully. And, I think that we can improve here, there, and the other. then you're doing it wrong. You're not meeting that expectation. You're not helping the group. Your attitude is piss poor, and it's a detriment to the group. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because, for my guild, what I've set is a list of expectations, and we talked about the survey and kind of going over it and what I expect given the responses to the survey from last week. And the idea is, if you're not meeting these expectations, I can't take loot away from you, because the BFA and personal loot, again, I don't agree with it, but, cool, whatever. But now, if you don't meet even these basic expectations that I've laid out, I'm just not going to bring you to the raid, because I can't have, run that risk of you not performing, you not showing up, and you being an asshole in the raid and getting loot and taking it away from someone who is busting their butt to get that 99th percentile, that shows up every single day, that has an amazing attitude and always willing to help. I'll take that raider every day over you. And that's where we have to list the expectations that we have, why you are or are not being brought into the raid. So please, guys, those of you that are interested in raiding in general, those of you that are coming back for BFA, maybe those that need to do a little bit of soul searching and, maybe aren't performing, maybe aren't showing up, maybe have a poor attitude. Think about it. And hopefully it helps. If it does, you guys know what to do. If you didn't like this, you guys know what to do. Let me know in the comment section down below anything that you got. And until next time, guys, I'll see you.